Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor with Retail Insider. Joining me today is Darryl Schmidt, Vice President of National Leasing with Cadillac Fairview. Thanks, Darryl, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Mario.
Well, we all know Cadillac Fairview has a huge portfolio of shopping centers across Canada. What are you seeing when it comes to leasing in the retail sector these days in that portfolio, Darryl?
What we're seeing is a very dynamic market. We're seeing a market from a leasing perspective that's fully recovered from COVID. We've got strong demand. We're seeing occupancy in our portfolio up over 90% permanent leasing. And really, we're in a fortunate position. There's not a lot of low-hanging fruit to be had from a retailer's perspective. All those deals got absorbed in the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, we've been fortunate. We've leased over 2 million square feet coast to coast in the last 24 months. So we're seeing a much more balanced market from our perspective.
So when you look at the retailers that are looking at the portfolio, what are retailers looking for in order to lease up space?
I think the retailers are looking for what they've always been looking for, which is strong shopping centers located in high traffic areas in major metropolitan markets where they know their brand's going to resonate. And we're fortunate Cadillac Fairview's got a portfolio that can deliver a lot of that. And in addition to that, once they get into the asset, they're really looking for co-tenancy. They want to be adjacent to like-minded brands at similar price points that really give them the synergistic benefits of cross-shopping with other retailers that they know can perform.
Okay, now you mentioned the high level of leasing activity. Let's take a look at who are some of the top brands, new brands that have entered the market, say in the past year.
Sure. We've seen really good demand coming from Nike. We've done a number of deals with them in Western Canada and have been expanding the partnership on a national basis and into Quebec. You've seen Alo Yoga from California come into the Canadian marketplace. We've partnered with them on 8 stores coast to coast. JD Sports from the United Kingdom, again, an athleisure brand, a little more footwear focused, but we've done 7 or 8 deals with them on a national basis. You've also seen Athleta, which is a division of the Gap, expanding aggressively. So that athleisure, more casual style sector is really on fire, and you're seeing a lot of growth there. But we've also seen some big inroads from fast fashion players like Zara. At CF Chinook Centre, they're doing an expansion to a flagship size store of 35,000 square feet. Likewise, they're doing the same thing in Polo Park, and we're in discussions across the rest of the portfolio to expand them. And we've also seen Uniqlo retrenching in the Canadian marketplace. They've opened a number of doors in Western Canada with us recently and are looking for more coast to coast.
And talking about Uniqlo, I know that at the recent Calgary Real Estate Forum, Darryl, you talked about the massive interest that was generated by the opening of that store. Can you just reiterate for us just what you guys experienced with the opening there at Chinook?
Sure, it was like the good old days. We had a crowd waiting prior to the grand opening of the store of over 2,000 people. They exceeded all of their plan and expectations for the first 8 days of the store opening, and they continue to do so. So it's been a real phenomenon in the Canadian marketplace, and specifically in Calgary. I think the brand had really good awareness, so they were able to capitalize on that for the grand opening at Chinook.
Is Market Mall next for the brand?
I think it's safe to say that Market Mall would be a logical expansion point for them, and It might happen sooner than later.
All right. When we're looking, I guess for the rest of this year and but more so into next year, do we have any other new brands that are slated to come into the portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, we've been continuing to make inroads with some of the luxury brands. We recently did a deal with IWC Watches in CF Chinook Centre, so that's good. And we've also seen an uptick in demand from brands that were housed in Nordstrom. So with the closure of Nordstrom across the country, we've really been in active discussions. So, one of those was Smythe, which is a Canadian ladies wear brand. We've done a deal at Chinook Centre as well, but we're also seeing the likes of, David Yurman and Montclair and some other brands that had shop and shops within Nordstrom's that are starting to look at bricks and mortar presence coast to coast. And there's some more brands that we're in discussions with both south of the border and from Europe. So, it really is kind of back to the typical cadence we saw pre-COVID in terms of it. It's a global marketplace. Brands that have an online presence, track their consumer. They know where they're shopping, based upon the online sales, and they're using that to really target markets that their brand resonates. So it's an exciting time for us.
So speaking of that Nordstrom space, where are you at with all that space in terms of leasing it up and changing it?
Yeah, I mean it's a challenge for us, but we're up to the challenge. You've got 5 different boxes in 5 cities, and there's no single user that's going to come into the marketplace like a Target or a Nordstrom's to backfill them. So we're really getting creative with our development teams in terms of how we can, potentially re-demise each of those boxes and come up with the highest and best uses. We're focused right now on retailers and full line department stores. We think we've got some good demand in the market coast to coast with those types of brands, but we've also got a number of other global and American banners that want to have flagship type presences in these assets. And we're trying to balance all that demand coast to coast. So stay tuned. We're probably a few months away from making any formal announcements, but it's certainly well into discussions with a number of brands, and I think we're going to have some excellent solutions coast to coast.
Now, Darryl, when you were looking at the tenants, and I want to go back to what you were talking about, the athleisure. One of the things that strikes me as I walk through different malls, particularly like Market Mall, which is in my neighborhood, but also Chinook, is the concentration of athleisure, and then B, the concentration of eyewear and eye care places. It doesn't seem to be right to have all that competition in one spot, but I guess it works, right?
It does. And it's a challenge for us. In both those sectors, you've got so many new brands coming in that are well capitalized. So you can't really differentiate from that perspective. And you're seeing growth in the market and in demand. You've seen consumers go to a more casual type of wardrobe, especially with a lot of work from home, and you're not back to a 5-day work from office environment. So I think that's driving a lot of the athleisure sales. But really what it comes down to is, you want the hottest and best brands in at that time. And then we let the consumer decide, where to spend their money, and we let them vote with their dollars. So, we don't have a crystal ball where we can kind of predict who is going to win those competitive battles in those sectors. We let the market decide, and then we react accordingly. Are we a little overweighted in eyewear and Market Mall right now? Yes. So, but that, like I said, the market will sort itself out, and we'll backfill those vacancies when they come with whatever the hot brand is at that time.
Now, let's talk a little bit, Darryl, about the evolution of the shopping center, right? And in terms of the mix of tenants. And then over the last few years, obviously, there's been quite a change there. Like, where do you see that going in terms of this evolution of who is going to come in and rent space in a shopping center in the future?
We try to get a balanced mix, right? We want the best combination of retailers and services and entertainment in any of our assets. I'd say one of the markers that we look for these days, especially on the fashion side, is a brand that's got an omni-channel presence. So are they playing online? Are they do they have bricks and mortar? Do they have an outlet channel to cleanse product? And when we get those brands, they tend to be well thought out, well run organizations. So that's dictating a lot of where we see the merchandising going, right? Like I alluded to earlier, the retailers are tracking the online sales within each market, so they know in advance where their brand's resonating and whether it makes sense to have a bricks and mortar presence or to have or a greater bricks and mortar presence. Maybe it's not one store, maybe it's two or three. So we see that. We like food stores. I mean, there was a while there where food stores were, we were removing them from the mix and going a little more fashion. We like the 24/7, 365-day a year footfall that food stores deliver, how they really anchor those shopping centers back into the community, the market. So we like that. And then a balance of services that all of our consumers demand. So it as much as they're evolving, I think they also, the more they change, the more they stay the same. And it's really incumbent upon our team to stay on top of the trends to make sure that the mix is relevant for our consumers.
Yeah, I guess the sky's the limit in a sense, right? In terms of uses for spaces and shopping centers. When you look at things, I guess from your perspective, the goal is to get people there, and that almost even on a daily basis, right? And so I'm thinking of things like an office, an office space, and we do have those co-working spaces that are out there in some malls.
Yes.
One thing that just popped in my head: what about a library, right? In a mall? Like, what are your thoughts on the sort of the non-traditional use of former retail space?
I mean, we like the balance of foot traffic that you get from non-traditional uses, but at the end of the day, fashion retailers have the longest gross margins and have the capacity to pay the most rent. So that's always going to be our bread and butter, is fashion and footwear. We like that. One of our core strategies at Cadillac Fairview is to add densification and to our sites. So we're seeing that in Richmond Centre, where we've got 1,100 condominium units under construction right now, and we really like the benefits of having that live, work, play environment, having residents on site that are there, like 24/7, 365 days a year, and are taking advantage of the service and amenities that we have at the shopping center. And it works both ways. So you're going to see more of that within our portfolio on an ongoing basis. We're going to continue to try and add residential density where appropriate. Hotels, some office. I mean, office is downtown office. We're seeing still a resistance to make long-term commitments on leases, because people don't have a clear view of where return to office is going to go. So it's a little more challenging, but our suburban office spaces where we've got them attached to shopping centers are generally well occupied right now.
All right, super. Well, thanks very much, Darryl, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mario.
All right, that was Darryl Schmidt, who is Vice President of National Leasing with Cadillac Fairview. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor with Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.